good.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Just hang on. Hang on.
Had a little fall not too long ago, and learning how to walk again. That I carried up with me is water, by the way. I used to, at one time, I was arranging speakers for a Lions Club. We met at 6:45 in the morning. And one of the speakers I was able to get was a demolition guy. He's one of those guys that when a big ship runs aground, they have to blow it apart. He was the guy that set all those things. He agreed to speak on the condition that I would have two of those little Lakatani things for him. And it was an excellent speech. He didn't need notes. Too late for me to try that. I gave up vodka about 35 years ago. There's a lot of work, as some of you know, because I know some of you do speak from time to time. A lot of work putting together a Sunday lesson. Fortunately, I enjoyed to do it, but it would have been easier in older times when the preachers would just get up there and rave about sin and those kind of things, and give it a big deal. Such was the case, in fact, over there in Ireland back then. This preacher was, and he was having a difficult time in the morning anyhow. The housekeeper was pretty grumpy, and so when he gets up at the pulpit, he starts firing bullets at all the congregation, fire and brimstone. He ends it up by saying, on the day of judgment, there will be great wailing and gnashing of teeth. And this fellow Murphy, who always sat in the front row, liked to have his fun with the priest, and he raised his hand and he says, "Father, what if the condemned has no teeth?" Priest says, "Need not worry." He says, "It comes a time of gnashing, teeth will be provided." I'm not going to do a fire and brimstone today. I wouldn't tackle anything as difficult as that. And instead, we're going to reveal the true meaning of life. Many years ago, I was in Boston to run the marathon. And I was being hosted by my friends, Connolly. Jim Connolly was on a track and field scholarship, such as I was at St. Joseph in Philadelphia. And not only was he a good runner, he was a statistician. He would know, and to this day, in fact, he would know times I ran as a high school kid in cross country. In fact, it was Jim who told me just a few years ago that when the National Collegiate Association raised cross country to a major sport, that they would go back and anyone who finished in the top 25 of the national championships would be declared an All-American, which I was able to do a couple of times. And you may wonder why I even bring it up now. But I found out so late about it. It was too late to put it in a resume or anything. So every chance I get like this, get some mileage out of it. I arrived a couple days early, and the day before, the Conleys took me on a drive through the marathon. Starting at Hopkinson, you walk through the hills to Vassar College, the Women's College, and Boston University, Catholic College, and then on down Commonwealth Avenue, past the Boston University. But when we got back to the house, there was 2 notes on the kitchen table from their two sons. And one was from Tommy, and Tommy said, his note said, I've gone over to Peggy's house and I should be back about 5:30. The other one was from Jimmy, and he said, I have gone out to seek the true meaning of life. Should be back about 6. The true meaning of life, we all want to know what that is from time to time. We want to know right from our very birth. I have to think of that. I've always been empathetic for women to have to go through the birth process. It's a terrible thing. But the child, you have to think about the child. What does a child go through in that process? There in the great warmth of his mother's womb, and everything quiet and nice. And he doesn't have to, his consciousness had not been developed at that point, so he could, didn't have to think. And that's one of the greatest blessings you could ever give him, not to think. So there he is in great comfort, and but all of a sudden things start happening, things start moving about, and he hears some screaming. What's that about? And then there's somebody grabbing his head and pulling him through, and that doesn't feel good. And then he's outside and he can't breathe. Well, he doesn't know what breathing is. It hadn't started. So then he's been held upside down, slap on the back, starts to breathe. And life begins. Life begins. And the trauma of that birth is not unlike the traumas that he would face during the rest of his life. And we get to the point, I don't know if you've ever felt this, that with all the trauma of life, it's easier to, you'd like to get back in the womb. In fact, that's a terrible thing that men sometimes do to women. As they become unsure with their life, they have to, they want to get back in the womb. So they marry their mother, the woman who becomes her mother. Awful thing to do to a woman. I probably did that with my first wife, so I hereby in public apologize. You can't get back in the womb in this life. You can't. But you can get back in the womb of God at any time, and that's the best place to be. I got to wondering if Jesus being Jesus, if Jesus had to go through that same terrific process, being born of Mother Mary. Perhaps you would think that maybe he just slipped right out, gives him a nod to the doctor and Mom, thanks Mom, good job. But it probably didn't happen that way. Probably he had to go through the same trauma as any of the rest of us. And that is important because Jesus did not come to be idolized. That would be useless. We already had God. Football players to idolize. We didn't need another idol. What we needed was his experience of life so that we would emulate that in our own lives. But sometime during the way, we know a little bit about when he was maybe 12 years old, that speaking in the temple. But for most of 30 years, we didn't know what was going on. And perhaps I like to think that even Jesus, at some point, had to stop and think, what is life about? What is the true meaning of life? Like all the rest of us, but the answer, I think, probably came a lot quicker to Jesus than it has come to us. Charles Fillmore, co-founder, said that Jesus was the same as us, except that he seemed to have a leg up. I like that term, leg up. He seemed to have some advancement over the rest of us, but not so much that we would waste our time idling him, but to emulate him. There are many songs and writings about the meaning of life. They pose more questions than answers. I was taught by the Jesuits at St. Joseph's in Philadelphia, and the Jesuits, of course, are great, the great scholars of the church. But even with the Jesuits, with the brilliant teachings that they did, ultimately, when the question usually got dissolved back down to saying conveniently, it's a mystery. That's a wonderful way to answer when somebody asks you anything. It's a mystery. You don't have to try to explain it. The afterlife seems to give us some relief from needing to know, so that you die and then you find out what it was all about back here, and which doesn't seem very helpful unless you're coming back for some reason. Well, people think you do come back. And if you did, I think it'd be a lot wiser. I like to think that maybe this was my first time. So I don't have to be too smart. Life is a series of tests, is it not? Seems to be. Challenges come and go. We do the best we can today and let tomorrow take tomorrow. There's that story of St. Patrick, which I choose to believe, that he chased all the snakes out of Ireland. And there are no snakes in Ireland, by the way, so it's found to be true. But in that process, there was one snake remaining. And Patrick, being glib of tongue as he was able to talk the snake into hiding in Lake Lochnagar. It is said to this day that children walking by that loch from time to time see a snake rise its head above the water and cry out, "Is this the morrow?" And of course, it never is the morrow, is it? It's always today. Always today. Life can be a test. But we need to know, too, that no one of any importance is keeping score. I'll say that again. No one of any importance is keeping score. The only person that keeps score, we like to think our spouses do, but they don't. That doesn't count. No one of any importance except you. So you need to be kind to yourself at all times. You are, heard this before, but you are the best you that ever was. Let that sink in. The best you ever was, and that's all you're required to be, by the way. That's all you're required. That would be a good affirmation. Maybe we'll say that together. I'll say it first. I am the best me that ever was.
I am the best me that ever was.
Way to go, congratulations. You are. It's a waste of time and precious energy to condemn ourselves. There's a Course in Miracles, you may be familiar with that study. Course in Miracles says that guilt is always insane. Doesn't do us any good at all. It's a state of mind that prevents normal perception of what's going on and normal procedure. When you're in the process of guilt, you're not doing things as good as you can normally. In fact, it's said that if you get angry, sometimes I get angry, if you get angry, your immune system shuts down for a period of six hours. So during that period of time, you're open to anything the bad thing that could possibly happen to you. So we need to be careful and be kind to ourselves at all times. You agree?
Yes.
There's a wonderful lady by the name Martha Smock. She was one of the great early women in unity. Pause for a little while. One of the great women in unity, and there were many. And she wrote this poem, which I'll share with you now, that seems to sum up this whole thing for me, really. She said, could we but see the pattern of our days, we should discern how devious were the ways by which we came to this present time. And we would see the climb our souls have made up through the years. We should forget the hurts, the wanderings, the fears, the wasteland of our lives, and know we could have come no other way, and grow into our good without these steps, our feet found difficult to take, our soul found difficult to make. The road of life leads on. We as travelers go from bend to bend until we come to know that life is endless and that we forever are inhabitants of all eternity. We could have come no other way. When you start regretting what's happened in your previous life, bless it, move on. It could have come no other way. How we know that? It happened that way. It happened. So we try more and more to move forward with great trusting, forgetting about the past, fearless. There's another line from the Course in Miracles that said, if you knew who it was who walked beside you on the path that you have chosen, fear would be impossible. Think about it for a moment. You're never alone. Sometimes we do that to ourselves and think that we are alone, but you never are, never are. But still, we want to know what is the true meaning of life. Let's look at what Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, said about life. He said, life is not in itself intelligent. It requires a directive power and entity that knows where and how to apply its force in order to get the best results. That's us. That's us. Life does not emanate from the mind. It is not psychic or purely mental quality, nor does it spring from the physical. The river of life is within humankind and their spiritual consciousness. It's up to us. Life does not come from here. It comes from the heart, from the heart. And anytime during the day, things are bothering. There's this thing, a chemical thing that happens in the body when you put your hand over your heart. It goes through your whole system. These things we used to say now are being proven by science day in and day out. In fact, science has proven and able to identify that there is more energy, more power coming from the heart than from the mind. 60 times more electronic energy emanating from the heart than from the mind. So where do we spend most of our time? Up here. And work so well. Always come back down to the heart. We do it to ourselves. Make it difficult for ourselves. I was hearing again, we were driving up here today and listening to John O'Donoghue, who was a former Catholic priest, a great poet, great writer, passed on too young a few years ago. But he wrote this little poem. He said, I would live my life as a river flows, directed and surprised by its own unflowing. It goes on, and that's all we need to know. What's next? Okay, we're ready for it. Kathleen Morris, who was a amazing person, a minister of another faith, um, wrote a book called Amazing Grace. It's a vocabulary of faith, she called it. She said this, you all are a good example of this. She said, I have learned two things in my religious quest. First of all, that it is God who is seeking me and has a myriad of ways of finding me. Secondly, that my most substantial life advances and the uncertainty of life came from other people. Other people. Even when I am at times felt that God is absent in my life, others have a way of suddenly revealing God's presence. Why we come here this morning, and at other times, we revealed to each other the presence of God. Even the monks, we talk about it, we're not very far from China, where the monastery is, just up the road, past Chico a bit. But the monks don't come to go hide from them. They come to be together. They don't have to talk very much. They're just together. So I congratulate, I can feel just all the excitement and energy that was going on before we started and during the service itself. So you're doing the right things. God bless. God bless. We need each other more than we're willing to admit. Even those others that seem to disturb us at times. They can reveal to us the presence of God. You start getting angry about someone, let that go. Come within your heart and see, ask yourself what's going on here. And the important thing is what's going on in your own heart, not what this other person is doing. To go back to my Jesuit professors, life is a mystery. And the more we try to figure it out, the further it gets away. It's like a beautiful leaf from this time of year, and the wind is taking it and moving it on. You keep trying to get to it, you can't quite get there. And that's okay. Because the important part is the journey. It's not the conclusion, it's a journey. The more we try to figure out what life is and what the mystery is, the further it escapes. And we of all of us who are chasing for the answer, are the answer. You are the answer of what life is about. Too often we allow our efforts to get in the way of the truth. It's about the chase. It's about the chase. That's what life is about. We cannot solve the mystery of life because we are the mystery. We cannot solve the mystery. We can only live the mystery day to day, hour to hour. And you can only do that by being fully aware of who you are and happy with who you are. You have a right to be happy with who you are. You are the best you that ever was. Let's say the affirmation again today. I am the best me that ever was. All I always require. No more than that. So I wonder if we've been wasting our time chasing our own tail. No matter, remember, we could have come no other way than this. Find our good. No other way. So we did it okay. Don't waste time going back and trying to resurrect stuff. Doesn't work. You can never change the past no matter what you do. Using our spirit guide, the guide that comes from the intelligence of the heart, remember, 60 times more powerful than the head. Using the spirit within us as our guide always, to joyfully do the best that we can. What is the true meaning of life? It is found in the journey that we are taking. We don't have to go running around trying to find it. It's us, day to day. And that's good news, because you don't have to go very far. We joyfully do the best that we can at any time. Life, this present life, is endless. And we are now and forever inhabitants of all eternity. And that, my dear friends, is very, very good news. And I'm happy to have been here today to share that with you. God bless all here.
Thank you so much, Joe.